Welcome back to Brian Sells Words. I'm playing around the format of doing a video podcast, and so I'm probably going to take this audio and make it a podcast out of this one. So if you hear natural breaks or me saying, let's take a pause for the cause, that's what you're seeing. I'm probably going to end up having to edit the footage down and removing the pieces I don't want. So just bear with me on that one. All right. On today's episode, we are going to talk about imposter syndrome and the perfectionism trap and how it plagues content creators, business owners, pretty much anybody out there that has to do anything where you are concerned about getting scrutinized. It's a plague. And so I wanted to have that conversation. And part of it is I struggled with even posting this video. I've been fooling around with my lights, been trying to get everything set up. I still got the reflection of the light in my glasses, which is just a curse of being a kid that always had to wear glasses. And so I even struggled with getting this content out. And so it's important to have this conversation because maybe I can throw out some jewels or even share experiences that I've had with the perfectionism trap and the imposter syndrome thing. And so that's what we're going to discuss on today's episode of Brian Sells Words. So we're going to dive headlong into this. When normally the way I would classify this imposter syndrome is, and I think it's one of those unique things of once you learn how to do something, you realize how much you don't know. And that's a curse. That's the curse part of it, because you do have a good knowledge of the thing that you're discussing or doing, but you realize that you don't have all of the knowledge. And then that makes you question what you already know. That is one of the side effects of learning. You learn what the edges of your knowledge actually are. And then you start really questioning what you actually do know. And for a lot of people in a lot of different fields, businesses, if they're a business owner, if they're creating media or whatnot, that's very daunting. You realize that, hey, I'm not as technically savvy as I thought with camera and microphone and audio setup. Or, maybe I don't know in my field specifically. I don't know as much as I thought about marketing, because here's this entire world of marketing techniques that I was completely unaware of. And so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Or this person online seems to be a lot more well versed and a lot more polished in this thing that I'm working on. Maybe I really don't know. And it happens in every place where you have to learn how to do something that you've never done before. It is a challenge that actually will stall you out. When you actually do know how to do something, it will actually prevent you from executing, because you're like, well, do I really know about this? And that's one of the downsides of the learning thing, is you learn the skills that you need to move forward, but at the same time, you are constantly questioning what you actually do know. And I've seen it hit people that have years and years of experience and knowledge about what they could be sharing with the world, but since they have so much expertise, they know all the stuff that they don't know. And they're like, well, I'm not really one to talk about it because there's this whole universe of information that I am completely and totally unaware of. And I know it exists. Well, the process of learning got them to the point where they're aware of what they don't know. That's the wild part about it. And that's the exciting part about it. Once you're aware of what you don't know and you start to embrace that concept of, ooh, here's all these things I didn't know. Now I have the opportunity to read up on the stuff that I didn't know that I didn't know, if that makes sense. I've learned how to embrace that challenge, even though there are times where I struggle with that imposter syndrome and I struggle with, do I really know what I'm talking about? And plus, the ADHD brain will kick in and it'll start rapid firing off thoughts, different thoughts as I am trying to communicate things that to the audience or whoever I'm talking to. It will start rapid firing other contradictory ideas or even complementary ideas, and it will jumble up my thoughts and jumble up my words. And so the back of my brain is like this big freeway that's gridlocked, and there the front of my brain is this little tiny road that is leading out to the destination. Anyway, so imposter syndrome. So it first kind of hit me when I was transitioning from direct care to case management, because that was a new universe of stuff, and I spent a couple months trying to learn the ins and outs of it, and trying my best to maneuver the court system and things like that. And the way that the court system set up locally, a family court system, and they've changed a lot of stuff, but they haven't changed a lot of stuff. It is, what's the word? Kafka-esque, of maddening complexity. Um, and so even the people that were well versed and knew how to navigate the courts and things like that, knew how to navigate all the legal jargonese that you had to know in terms of case management, they would get themselves tied up in it. And it's doubly tough when you're new and you're just kind of getting your footing and you're not quite sure about what you know. And a lot of people, especially me, you get caught up in this perpetual cycle of, am I imposter? Do I know what I'm talking about? The decisions and the things that I'm asking this judge to do or sign off on will impact this family forever. Do I really, who am I to make that decision? Even though I'm the person that had been hired to help support that decision, to help make those plans. Who am I? Even though I had 10 years of experience of, individual case management and planning, safety, managing behaviors of kids safely and stuff like that. I went through a huge, and I don't know if I ever really quite came out of it. I knew what I knew, and I was able to parlay that into other positions to move up or whatnot. But I don't know if I ever got past that initial feeling like I was just making shit up as I was going along. And that was a very difficult time. And so I'll skip forward and I'll save you the entire backstory about case management. I'll probably do that on another episode to talk about how I transitioned from doing the case management thing to actually being an independent, a contractor consultant who helps people with their marketing. And so, anyway, starting my own business. Now I've been studying, marketing, and initially when I was in college, I was in radio, and I was a journalism student. I thought broadcasting was going to be it. And hindsight being 2020, it should have been it. It should have been the thing that I focused on. But you listen to people who have more experience in the world than you. And so I made that mistake. I don't want to say it's a complete mistake, but I did make the mistake of listening to people saying, well, you can't make any money in radio. There's no future in it. And I allowed the one thing that kept me in college, to be quite honest with you, kept me actually physically going to the building, was working radio and really becoming adept at being in radio and broadcasting. That was the only thing that kept me engaged in school. I allowed that to go away because I'm like, well, there's no future in it, because I was listening to people who hadn't really seen, and it wasn't even malicious. It was kind of outside of what their experience was. That was the edge of their knowledge. The edge of their knowledge was you can't make real money. You can't make a living doing broadcasting or as a radio personality. You just can't. And so that was the edge of their knowledge. That's what they knew. And they didn't know that there's a whole universe of people that took college radio or took broadcasting in college or journalism in college and flipped that into an entire career. And notwithstanding the fact that it was still early in the days of internet radio, I'm an old man. But I was still in the early of the days of internet radio. It was really just as uh, podcasting. It was like a couple years before they really first had the first podcast that came out. And so we were our show was kind of on the cutting edge of that. We had fans in other states and other cities. Even though we weren't broadcasting anywhere but campus, there was an internet feed broadcasting our show worldwide, and we actually had followers there. So I listened to the people outside of my circle, and they were talking outside of their experience. Now there's a trend here. They're talking outside of their experience, and they allowed their limits, the edges of their knowledge, I allowed. I'm taking ownership. I allowed the edges of my knowledge to impact, uh, to allow their limits of their knowledge to limit my outcomes, if that makes sense. Anyway, so I'm saying all that to say this. when I started marketing, it's been something I'd been studying pretty much since about 2000. Before then, late 90s, um, in the 2000s and whatnot, with journalism and broadcasting and learning how these different things work, learning calls to action and the whole nine. Um, I studied that actually longer than my actual career working with kids and families, which is almost 15, 20 years. Like I've known the bits and pieces of marketing, and even in the background when I was working direct care and working in the homes, I would still go home and read marketing books, and you really learn the processes of you know what I was learning was, and I didn't know at the time, but I was learning mass marketing techniques, not direct marketing techniques, the ones that I believe are best for small businesses. And so I learned a lot of really a lot of mass marketing things that people were doing. And then I learned direct marketing. I probably started going down that rabbit hole. Probably about 2014 is when I really jumped in and started learning that piece of it. Now, the whole time I had, with a couple of friends, we were going to do a marketing business. We didn't quite know what we were getting into. And had I known, it'd have been something that we stuck with to kind of gut it out. But we ran into that imposter syndrome where we have a client, and the client that we had initially was super resistant to any kind of change. And so instead of taking that as this client isn't quite ready for the marketing they're asking for, I took it as they're rejecting me because I don't know what I'm talking about. And to be quite honest with you, had that client that we had taken on early on implemented a couple of the things that we had suggested, they might be around. They might have stayed around, but unfortunately, they're already kind of behind the times in terms of what they were doing, and they're struggling to keep up in a service business economy, which it can be a little bit, which can be daunting. But there's plenty of places, there's plenty of room at the table for everybody to eat in that kind of service business world. Um, as long as you have and you really designate your delivery of service and you get your clients to be really fans of your product, it's pretty easy to get repeat customers, especially if you're providing a service for them. And so they were really resistant. And I took that as a personal thing. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. They're rejecting me. They're not rejecting the ideas. Um, they're rejecting what we're saying. And hindsight being 2020, really what I was encountering was a client who wasn't appropriate for the services that we are trying to provide. And instead of being able to understand this, I took it as a personal thing and like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe this was just a shot in the dark. I need to go ahead and leave this alone. And so I dropped it and went on back to living the life of um, uh, residential care provider, case management, and all the other stuff. Now we're gonna jump ahead now. So we're gonna talk about me starting up. So um, all the while, like I said, I've been teaching myself this stuff in the background and really focusing on learning what is the best way to deliver marketing that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It doesn't break the bank. It doesn't destroy people's ability to manage their business because the marketing budget is so high. And it was landing on, the direct response kind of marketing. And that comes from the kind of Dan Kennedy and those other guys who are kind of luminaries in that field. If you've ever watched an infomercial, you have experienced direct response marketing. If you've ever downloaded an app for a fast food restaurant, that is direct response marketing. If you've ever sent in a postcard, if you've ever gone to a website based on somebody's message that they sent you, you are directly responding to a message that you received, and you're taking action based on that message. That's direct response marketing. You see it everywhere. Mail campaigns, email campaigns, pay-per-click ads, those are all direct response marketing things. It's based on the concept of getting the interested audience to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in services. And there is a lot of history with that. And so I started learning that piece of it. And I really hyper focused on that piece of it. And I started trying it out with businesses that would take me, that would take me on and give me an opportunity to try to help reverse some of their fortunes. And when I first started this, when I first decided to start I Sell Words, um, I didn't have any focus about what I wanted to do. I just thought that I could come in and I had a bag of tricks that I could just open up and deploy, and it could fit any situation. And I learned that while I do have a wide variety of different things I can do, I can run a camera, I can edit video, I can edit audio, I can design web pages to an extent. There's a lot of things that I know how to do. There's also things that I want to do. And there's an element of being able to do something and wanting to actually do something and being driven to do something. And I was finding myself more in the lane of just doing things that I wasn't quite happy with, but it was business. And so I didn't have a clear focus, and I had a very difficult time articulating exactly what I Sell Words was. Initially, it started out as a copywriting business. And when I say copywriting, that is, copy is words that sell. I sell words. Basically, it's writing ads for people, writing sales letters and things like that. I realized pretty quickly that the creation piece of it, the writing piece of it, it was actually removing the joy of writing from me. It was actually slowly killing the joy of writing other stuff because, I like to write in my downtime is how I unwind. But I was not happy. I know how to write ads and I enjoy it. And if I'm with the right product and if I'm right with the right people and the businesses I'm working with now, the reason why I'm working with them is because I truly believe in what their vision is. And so it's not hard to create content for them, but creating content just like that for businesses that I don't have any connection with, that was really kind of robbing that joy of writing. And so I had to sit back and say, okay, do you just want to be a copywriter? Is that what you want to do? Or do you want to create? Do you want to help people create content and create their own channels so that they can market their business however they want to? And that's what gets me excited, teaching people how to create their own channels, whether it be a YouTube channel, podcast, a website where they post constant content to, a mailing list that they've cultivated, a newsletter. Those are the things that get me excited, is teaching people how to create that kind of stuff and teaching them that they don't need an expensive setup. Like right now, my setup, and this is the setup that I've worked on, I've kind of cultivated over the last couple of years. I have a Sony A6500, which at the time was a $1,500 camera. Right now it's around $700 or $800. A cheap light that a cheap light that I ordered off Amazon, an expensive light, a more expensive light that I've ordered off Amazon. And so my setup plus computer is around under $2,000. I don't need all this stuff to broadcast. You need a smartphone. Teaching people that they can get in with just using a smartphone is great. Now, I'm saying all that to say this. I'm tying back to this. Imposter syndrome will squeeze you. It will tell you that you know nothing, that you are incompetent, that nobody believes in you, that the people that in the past that have told you that you don't know what you're doing were right. It will squeeze the life out of you. It will prevent you from being the best version of yourself. That's what imposter syndrome will do. It will rob you of opportunities. Perfectionism will rob you of opportunities. It will rob you of your ability to go out there on a limb, on your own, on a limb with your own talents and your abilities, and make fantastic outcomes for yourself. It will deprive you of that. It is the enemy. I had great grades when I was in school. I had pretty good grades. What I'm saying is, for the other kids that prided themselves on their grades growing up, you have to let go. You have to physically let go of that feeling of getting the A plus. That's got to go out the window. You cannot expect perfection every single time you create something. You can't expect it to go perfectly every single time you create something. That is a trap. And Unfortunately, a lot of business owners fall into this when it's time to start creating their own messaging and marketing campaigns. A lot of prospective business owners fall into it when they're even trying to dip their toe in the water to start with business. They're expecting things to roll perfectly. I know content creators who struggle with creating a new channel or even getting started. They know they have a voice, they know they have a potential audience, they know they have knowledge that can go out and change the world. They're terrified of sounding bad on a podcast or looking bad on camera. And so they never take that step to go out there and just do it. Your first content is going to be trash. It's going to suck. That's the reality of it. Your first videos are going to be awful, but they're only awful to you. They're not going to be awful to the people that are tuning in. The people that are tuning in have no concept of who you are, what you're capable of, what you look like at your worst, or what you look like at your best. They have no concept. They don't know. And because they don't know, they don't have any familiarity with that. They have no yardstick to judge you. So get out there and make the first terrible video or the terrible podcast. Just get it over with so that you can learn how to actually do it in a way that you're comfortable with. There are so many tools out there that allow you to get up and running as somebody who, especially as a business owner, who, if you want to create your own commercials or you want to cultivate an audience and establish your credibility in the space that you're working in, there's so many ways that you can get started. There's so many tools available that the ease of getting started is like that. You don't need a microphone. You don't need an expensive, interface like I have here that I'm running my mic through. Stuff like Anchor, it's not ideal. It's not the single best podcasting platform in the world, but it is enough for people to get started and have fantastic success to get started with. Because all you need is your smartphone. You can do everything from your smartphone. The reason why is because your smartphone is a device that's primarily made for talking. And so it has a pretty good microphone in it. And it can, Anchor has the software on the back end that allows you to filter your voice. And then all you go to you do your talking, you can log on, you can edit your audio, you can put in music and things like that. There's so many different things that you can do. They make the ease of use really, really simple. And I'm not trying to make this a advertisement for Anchor, but if you want to get started, that's a fast way to get started. Anchor is very simple. There are other things that allow you to get started really quick with video. Like I said, your smartphone is basically a personal supercomputer that you carry around in your pocket. Most of them are going to have 4K video. They already have a microphone. All you need to do is go on Amazon and find you a tripod and maybe a couple of lights, and you can get started. It doesn't have to be this challenge to get started. Now, if the physical piece isn't your concern, you're more worried about you and the content that you create. Here's where I'm gonna come in and say, if you know what you're talking about, if you have a general idea of what you're talking about, outline it, write it out. The people that you're interfacing with, the people that are searching your content, they don't know what the doubts are. Your internal monologue is strictly you. The doubts, the saying, I don't know what I'm talking about and all this other stuff, that is simply you. The trolls are going to come along. And to be honest with you, people that sit around and troll YouTube pages and stuff like that, a lot of times they are novices expressing their novice status to you. They're showing you that they don't know what they're talking about either. Here's the thing. A lot of them have not taken the steps to establish themselves as an expert in the space, nor have they gone out on the limb and stepped out on faith and created their own channel to reach their audience. And so the only thing they have in their world, the only thing they can do is critique somebody else who's in motion. That's all they are. They're there to make you feel bad about yourself. It's just a stranger. It's just, that same idiot who goes to a concert to go and heckle, goes to a comedy show to heckle. The reason why they can do that is because they're not funny themselves. They can never get that audience in the room themselves. And so They're jealous of that person that can. And so what they're doing is they're taking the opportunity to heckle somebody who's doing better than they are. They're projecting their own weakness upon you. So get out there and start creating. Get it out of the way. You know, if you have a bunch of videos that are just kind of sitting, waiting to be posted, and you think that you can deploy them to elevate your business, then do it. Those people aren't going to know. And there are so many different little things that allow you to edit videos. The one I'll throw up, and it's not free, but it is pretty low cost. Adobe Rush. It works on your smartphone. You can edit videos. You can do color correction. You can layer sound on top of it. It allows you to do a heck of a whole lot with minimum experience. But get the content out there. Do not allow, because like I said, it's seductive. That imposter syndrome will sit there and tell you, no, I'm your friend. I'm just trying to protect you. I'm trying to protect you from getting hurt. I'm trying to protect you from the danger of criticism. But it's really not. It's just stopping your motion. So perfectionism is a trap. You're never going to be perfect in the efforts that you put out there. I had to make this video because I was struggling with it. I'm like, my lights aren't set up. My notes aren't quite right. What am I going to talk about? And I'm 26 minutes into this thing, just conversing with y'all about this. Do not allow imposter syndrome or perfectionism to hold you hostage. It's not keeping you safe. It's actually preventing you from the opportunities that you could have created for yourself by just stepping out on the limb and creating. So that's what I got today. Like I said, thanks for tuning in. I'm still playing around with the format of this video podcasting thing. And so, because I'm so used to the radio station the radio station setup where it's just me and a microphone and it's just me talking. But now I have to make sure that I'm framed up and all that other stuff on the video camera up here. And so, it's something that I am learning how to do. But I will probably be slicing this down to a quick podcast just to talk about perfectionism. This is probably a part one of things, because I think that this is a conversation that needs to be had a little bit more and a little bit more in depth, and maybe even talking to people in different industries who are struggling with just creating the content and getting it out there, specifically for business owners. And I do want to go into that real quick for business owners specifically, because it is important. I think every business probably should have some kind of media management company, media creation company attached to it. Because when you're able to create your own media, when you're able to create your own message using, and I call social media channels, when you're able to create your own messaging on the channels that you choose, you have a leg up on all your competition, because you can really fine tune your message for the audience that you want in the door. And you can allow people to pre-select and say, hey, I want to be a piece of it, or deselect themselves. Hey, I don't want to be a piece of this business. When you control the message and you control the message that you put out there, you're able to connect with your unique audience that will always, always, always do business with you. As long as the door's open, they're going to come and do business with you. I think for business owners, business owners need to really latch on to this content creation thing, because right now, there's an entire industry based on taking the vision that you have in your head, and they take it and they run it through their marketing people, and then they mangle it, and then they create a vision that may not align with what you think your company is. But since they have all the knowledge and all the backing and the financial backing, they will create a message that's not exactly who you are, not representative of who you are, what your services are, and they'll charge you a lot of money to do it. Or you can learn how to do it yourself, or you can hire me to help you find that vision, maybe bring out a camera, maybe you just send me the video that you have that you've created and I can punch it up for you and make a message for you to get a YouTube channel started or get a podcast started. So I'm saying all that to say this: business owners, there's a very unique opportunity that you have to create your own messaging. Stop being held hostage by the perfectionism side of things. Anything you do can be edited before it goes out. Any video that you make, if you don't like how it looks, you can edit out the different pieces that you don't like how it looks. If you don't like the entire video, if you don't like how you look in the video, just rip the audio and make a podcast out of it. But it doesn't matter. Get the message out there, create the content so that you can start reaching your audience, so you can start figuring out what messages work for your business and what messages don't. Because once you get a mastery of that, you're going to do you're going to be able, it's going to be like a superpower. I know specifically, and I can't remember exactly, there's a cleaner locally in Omaha that jumped on TikTok and they went viral on TikTok, which virality doesn't mean a heck of a whole lot to me, but it introduced them to a whole host of new clients that want to interact with them, which is cool. I don't care about a viral video if it doesn't bring clients to your door. That's not what's important. You can have a Facebook post that does all kinds of numbers and people like it, but if it's not creating any business for you, it's from a marketing standpoint. It doesn't mean a heck of a whole lot to me unless there was another goal. Like if it was just getting your name out there, then I'll ride with that one. But if we're trying to do business, just having somebody like my stuff doesn't mean a heck of a whole lot. But if it generates and introduces people to a new audience, that's great. But they took the channel of TikTok and were able to tap onto a whole new segment of business, that actively looks for their TikTok videos. And by extension, since people want to work with celebrities, they've used that celebrity to parlay that into some more business in their door. And so I can help you out with that piece of it. But I think business owners do need to actually embrace this. The days of just running a business quiet in the background and never having to do any marketing yourself and just hiring out all your marketing to a huge, big box marketing firm who does mass marketing that's not really direct response, that doesn't really ask for a response from a client before they contact them again, or doesn't get them to respond to a piece of content that you created. Those days are dwindling down. Now, media companies and marketing companies will always exist, but the savvy business owners are learning how to leverage both of these, how to create their own content and then use the big boys to create the big messages, the big direct response messages that really do numbers for them. So anyway, I appreciate you guys sitting there listening to me ramble about this. Do not allow this perfectionism, do not allow imposter syndrome to hold you hostage. It is not your friend. It is not protecting you. It's not saving you from anything. It's not saving you. Being scared to create the content and get your message out there, you're not protecting anything. The only thing you're doing is limiting your own potential outcomes. That's all I got. I'll holler at you later. ISLWords.net is the website. I'm going to be tweaking some stuff with the website, so you'll be seeing that in the future. And bsellwords@gmail.com. That is my email. Contact me. I'd love to sit down and talk to you. I may even have you on the show if you're interested. But, just shoot me a message and we can get together and start talking about some things. If I can help your business, that'll be great. If you want to be featured on the podcast, this is the way to reach me and we can discuss that piece of it. So anyway, Brian Sells Words. I will holler at y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.